Good morning. I'd like to call the first meeting of the Senate Committee on Agriculture for this session to order. Before we do, will everybody please stand for the saying of the pledge? Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Carpenter, Senator Deneen,
Here.
Senator Funky Fromeyer, Senator Nunn, Senator Reed, Senator Richardson, Senator Webb, Senator Wilson, Senator Yates, Senator Boswell, Chair Howell.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. A couple house cleaning measures before we go. I'd like to welcome all the new members here. Senator Reed, Senator Nunn, Senator Richardson, all freshmen coming here. Welcome to the committee. And a couple old hats, especially Senator Yates. It's nice to have an urban feel to ag here. So we welcome aboard. And Senator Funky Fromeyer, another good rural urban addition from the northern part of the state. So welcome to the committee. Couple of things. We have one bill on. Senator Webb, if you want to head that way and start. There has been a committee sub offered. I have a motion on the committee sub. There's been a motion by Senator Webb, second by Senator Yates. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. This is the committee sub is adopted. Just another house cleaning measure. There has been a fiscal note requested on this, but it has not been received. We're going to go ahead and proceed with the hearing on the bill, and we will we'll trail the fiscal note once we receive it. Especially with the fact that there was a committee sub, we had some steps to go through there, but we will trail the committee sub on this. Senator Webb, please introduce yourself for the record. The floor is yours.
Senator Robin Webb, Senate District 18, also a member of this committee, and I'd like to talk a little bit about Senate Bill 69 and assure the committee that the committee substitute were technical corrections at the request of the Kentucky Veterinarians Association and the chiropractors. And yes, horses have chiropractors. My horse has a chiropractor. And I don't, but, you know, I pay for one. But this started out addressing the subject of equine dental care and some of the challenges that have been associated with this animal husbandry practice it's gone on for probably 1,000 years that have traditionally been done a lot by laymen and like generational individuals who float teeth and whatnot. As you know, we've modernized the Veterinary Practice Act in the last few years. This was a natural progression of that as it relates to equine dentists and chiropractors. And there are already allied health veterinary professionals in existence, the statute. What we're doing is just modifying the statute to better define and clarify the roles of each, the scopes of practice, and to establish a credentialing licensing board, all the while giving those individuals who have historically done this, and I can tell you, most of you all know me, but all my life I've been in the horse industry. I still am. I'm a breeder, owner, exhibitor, and for all my life in eastern Kentucky, I've got horses in 3 states, from Alabama to here. And in Kentucky, especially rural Kentucky, we rely heavily on individuals who provide basic services for equine welfare that we've always classified as animal husbandry. Now, personally, do I think, I probably wouldn't like the licensing, as the veterinarians might tell you, that I think people ought to be able to care for their animals day-to-day practice and as an owner and all that. But if we're going to have a bill in this regard, this is the bill I think we need to have. Chairman Cook in the House kind of deferred this issue to me, said take care of it. So the last year, we have worked with, and I've got some of the people here with me to potentially answer any questions or concerns anybody would have. I've worked with Deborah Hamelback, the executive director of the KBMA, Dr. Jay Beckman, who wanted to be here but could not, and Dr. Weber, who is a governmental relations chair, and we've all worked with for a number of years. Also in on those discussions with the Kentucky Board of Veterinary Examiners, Michelle Shane and others, and some of their board members, who John Park, who I've utilized as my veterinarian, Gene Smith, who is I was at Moorhead with him pre-vet, and he's actually, I represent his practice some in Hazard, and Phil Prater was in on those discussions as well. So we've had a lot of work done to get here. My stack is about like this. And really, with a consensus, this is what I would call a consensus piece of legislation that provides an avenue for animal welfare. We seem to sometimes forget about the rural horse owner, the costs associated with the rising costs and all that. What this does is allows an avenue for better, to me, animal welfare care, and to provide those owners who might not be able to get a vet to come to the farm. We have those deserts of service, and we're talking about that a lot in veterinary numbers in the state of Kentucky, especially rural practice, and especially large animal veterinarians. Most of the individuals, like Justin and Jim Kustra, who's here, his sister's a veterinarian, but they have a close working relationship, in my experience, and these guys are no exception, to a veterinarian. So if something goes wrong, or they see an issue that arises when they're floating a tooth or doing whatever they do within the scope of practice here that we've defined, they will call that veterinarian, and they have a working relationship with them. I spoke with a number of rural veterinarians in my district and beyond that say, we've got close working relationships with non-veterinary licensed equine dentists. We don't have time to do this. We can't charge the individual that might have 6 or 8 retired horses. We call them pasture ornaments sometimes, but they still demand a level of care, and we can't charge these people enough to justify our time and trip. So they rely heavily on guys like Justin and Jim, who have practiced this husbandry and have elevated their craft because there's training, there's school involved, and this gives a level of opportunity for those individuals to some of them to grandfather in that haven't had the training like Justin's had, to be grandfathered in, and a window of opportunity for those individuals to take the training and become certified. Now, once they're certified, it's going to be the board. The board will police them. They will pay dues. They will have the bill sets forth the administrative processes of any violation of licensure and all that, similar to what's in place for veterinarians now. There's provisions relating to the practice of equine dentists and the chiropractors, and just gives a level of administrative structure, if you will, to make sure individuals that are out there are conforming to the board scope of practice and specifications. At this time, I would briefly just let my Justin Talip, who practices and is educated and certified and worked very closely and represented those individuals, to just give us a brief statement, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please. Please introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Hello, my name is Justin Talip. I'm an IAD certified equine dental provider from Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Thank you, Chairman Howell, for allowing me to testify on behalf of Senate Bill 69, and also Senator Webb for inviting me. Senator Webb has covered a lot of the key points that I wanted to discuss with you this morning, but I'd like to reiterate that this bill does not change the way we do business here in Kentucky and have for generations. The horsemen and women of Kentucky have relied heavily on individuals like myself for generations. We feel that this bill, we've worked closely, as she said, with KVMA and the Vet Board to find a solution that allows us to work legally. And for us, that's very important because it brings credibility and accountability to what we do. And with that, then with a licensing program, that allows us to carry liability insurance, which we think was very important. It's important to point out that the scope of practice defined in this bill simply allows us to float and balance molars and incisors, remove caps, which are deciduous or baby teeth, and wolf teeth. Basically anything beyond that stays veterinary medicine, and we then refer to veterinarians. In fact, there's vets in this room today who I've referred multiple cases to their practices over the years, and that won't change. That this isn't taking anything away from veterinary medicine. It's just allowing us a legal pathway to continue to work to provide the horsemen and women of Kentucky a service.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
I'll also add, in the language of this bill provides conformity to federal law in anything that they would, because that's ever changing and may get more stringent, less stringent. But we want to be able to conform to federal law and not restrict or provide more than it does. So it also conforms to federal law. Doc or Deborah?
Sorry. I'm Deborah Hamelback. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Veterinary Medical Association. Thank you for allowing us a little bit of time today. This is what has come out of the animal AAHP, Animal Health Practitioners, and this was done through the modernization of the Practice Act. And there are veterinarians or lay people that do chiropractic and equine dental work. And so we wanted to have a way to have them be accountable. Because there are a lot of lay people out there that are doing it. But I will preface that saying majority of the chiropractors and equine dentists are now certified. They go to school, they have certification, they have to keep up their CE, which is their continuing education yearly. And so we wanted to put a path forward for them to be able to practice legally. And so if you have some that are not doing it properly, they will get a grievance, and they will have basically reparation through the KBVE, which is the Kentucky Board of Veterinary Examiners. And so the main reason why they wanted to do it is allow them to be able to get insurance. And so as we were working through the modernization of the Practice Act, Senator Webb had a few questions about the dentistry portion of the AAHP. And so we pulled that at the time. And so that's why we gathered a working group with the licensing board, the veterinarians, with the IAED dentist, and we worked through it all line by line. And, there was compromise that was had. There's about 15 equine dental bills now that have been approved in other states. And we base this one off of the Texas model. We feel it's a good model. It allows for people to continue with certification to be able to practice. And so that is one thing that we felt was a good compromise. And that's basically where we are. It's a good bill. And we even did a survey to our membership. And, for the most part, veterinarians are okay with this as long as they stay within their scope of practice. And so that was the big thing that we worked through with several sole equine dentists that were in this panel, not the panel, but our working group, along with the IED and the licensing board. So.
Thank you. I believe we have one question for you from Senator Funky Fromeyer.
I can't resist because it's my first agriculture meeting, so I have to ask a question. But this is wonderful. I am a farm girl, so this is right up the alley of the Funky family. We considered all of our family members as allied health animal professionals.
Yeah.
So with going from permittee to licensee, you mentioned that there is continuing education, but you also mentioned if someone is a bad actor, that there's an opportunity for me to look for perhaps any grievances.
Yes.
Where would we go for that? What's the continuing education requirement? And what is the difference of a veterinarian versus a licensee? What amount of schooling is different there?
Go ahead.
Well, there's a big difference. I mean, we value our veterinarians. It is a very rigorous, you got to be really smart to be a veterinarian, and you have to devote a lot of time and talent to school in every discipline or every area of the practice. Equine dentist, Justin, you want to talk about the education?
So for certification in the International Association of, first of all, the International Association of Equine Dentistry is the largest association certifying both veterinarian and non-veterinarian equine dental providers around the world. So in order to achieve certification, you must be a graduate of a formal dental school. That requires at least 240 hours of training. You must submit 150 cases. And then once you have checked those boxes, then you're able to take our written and practical test and pass. You have to pass at a rate of 80%. It's important to note that this model has been in place in Texas since 2011. And since that time, there has not been one complaint filed with the Texas Board of Veterinary Examiners regarding a certified equine dentist in the state of Texas. So we do a really good job of policing our own. The association requires 12 hours per year of continuing education. We host various workshops around the country and the world. We have an international convention once a year. There's other CE opportunities for our members. So, it's important for our members to keep their certification. And the way I understand this bill to work, if a grievance were filed with the vet board regarding a malpractice or whatever the case may be, then the vet board would work with the IAD to look at revoking that certification, which then would take away our right to work here in the state of Kentucky.
There'd be due process provisions similar to already in place for licensed professionals.
Thank you. Does that answer?
Thank you. We have a couple more questions. In the interest of time, I would ask you to make them brief because we have some people in the crowd that wanted to speak out on this bill. I want to, in our shortened time frame, I want to make sure we have time for them. Senator Boswell?
Are there going to be people who are speaking against the bill?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll wait.
Senator Deneen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question about as you go out into the field and practice dental work on horses. We already have veterinarians, and then we have also below them we have licensed veterinary technicians, correct? Okay, and you all would be kind of a third tier to that, all three of those, or in addition to, let's say, not a third tier, but in addition to. My question is in that practice, will you all be administering sedations and drugs to the animals, and is there a licensing issue with that as you practice?
Go ahead.
So this bill does not change the way that prescribed sedations can be dispensed to them. So the way it will work, and the way it works for me in a lot of the barns that I work in already, there needs to be a valid VCPR. So there needs to be a valid client-patient relationship. And so if Joe Smith calls me to schedule a dental appointment, he will then contact his veterinarian, who can legally prescribe and dispense those sedations that we need for the treatment of his horse, and then the owner can administer those sedations. No different than,
Gotcha.
Is that good?
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah.
Yes, and again, once again, conforming to federal law, any nuances that they come up with, to
So
further
these folks-
hinder us lay veterinarians to work on our farm. But anyway,
Thank
that's my, Michelle Shane is here, the KBVE Executive Director, and I didn't see her back here, but she also might have, did we miss anything on Senator Fromeyer's question?
I would just like to say thank you to Senator
Introduce
Webb.
yourself for the record, please.
I think I'm on. Michelle Shane, Executive Director for the Board of Veterinary Examiners.
Thank you.
Just wanted to thank Senator Webb for her long investment in this bill and the compromises that were made to bring it to fruition. The board feels like for the carve out of veterinary medicine that allows practitioners of equine dental providers to work in Kentucky under this license, that it is the strongest bill that we could have put forth. Related to disciplinary actions, there is a regulation in place that would be followed in order to have due process procedures, as Senator Webb mentioned. And likewise, that Senator Webb mentioned with federal restrictions, what we would be concerned about is only controlled substances and where those sit. And so we'll follow, and defer to federal law in that case. Happy to answer any other questions from the board's perspective.
Thank you. At this point, one or both y'all, if y'all could step aside, we have somebody signed up to speak in favor of this, but I'm going to defer that for now since we've had people speaking out in favor of this. Bo Rainbow is a veterinarian. He had signed up to speak against this. Mr. Rainbow, if you will move up and take a spot, introduce yourself for the record. In the interest of time, let's try to limit your initial comments to about 3 minutes so that we can have time for questions if any of the members have questions.
My name is William Rainbow. I'm a veterinarian and owner of Kentucky Equine Veterinary Dental Specialists. I've been a veterinarian in Kentucky for 12 years now. I did send everybody a letter that you can check in your email from me as well. If you have any questions, I apologize. This is my first time in being involved in the political process outside of voting. I am against SB 69 firmly for a number of reasons. It's not that I don't believe Mr. Talop can float horses' teeth. He's done a nice job of floating horses' teeth from what I've seen in the past. I have heard of good things of him. However, I have a number of things against the bill. First of all, y'all say that there's a grandfather clause in there. That allows that anybody who's practiced illegally for 5 years can now suddenly be allowed to practice without taking the test. They should welcome taking the test. Absolutely welcome it. For the benefit of all the horses in state of Kentucky, we need to have, if these people are going to be allowed, against my will, they should all take the test. I'm concerned about the fact that the state of Kentucky wants to authorize these folks to essentially, it's going to say that they have performed. The public already thinks that they're performing an oral exam. It's hard for them to say that they're not performing an oral exam when they're opening the mouth of the horse. But opening the mouth of a horse requires, to do this properly and safely and to do a thorough oral exam, sedation. If y'all can get by that with your federal rules, that's fine. However, you're handing sedation to somebody that has never even taken your licensed veterinary technician exam. These folks should be at least as well trained and have to pass the courses for being a licensed veterinary technician. We have these rules in place already. And if we go back to the start of it, I'm not even sure why equine dentistry was pulled out of the practice in the first place. Animal husbandry, no, you're doing an oral exam. This is veterinary medicine from the get-go. So it should be a veterinary practice the entire time. So I'm going to politely disagree that it is, in fact, veterinary medicine. And so if I wanted to have somebody under my direct supervision performing that, it would be somebody that has done a licensed veterinary technician training program, and then they could be well trained and certified for the IADT and do something like that. But right now, the way this just goes blanket here, everybody that's been practicing illegally for 5 years, here you go, that's baloney. We shouldn't do that. We wouldn't take our kids to just go see, we've moved beyond the 1920s when we took people to the barber shop to see a toothache or something like that. Veterinary medicine and dentistry, especially dentistry, has grown dramatically in 20 years. I've performed a whole residency in it. So there's more that horses are going to get disease missed and dismissed because these guys only have floats and mirrors. Now, the vast majority of them are not that well trained. And so maybe they won't get certified. You can try to weed them out that way. But especially if you let the whole group in the first go, we are going to have so much stuff in the state of Kentucky saying, here you guys, they're good. They're good to go. We should not do that to them. We should not do that to our horses. This is a signature industry. They deserve better. So I want to be able to answer any question you have, but I'm firmly that this is veterinary medicine. I'd be happy to have potentially somebody working underneath me after I have done an oral exam to then be able to perform odonoplasty. But the first person in the mouth needs to be a veterinarian looking, examining, and being able to refer, then say, here, this is a mouth that is healthy, that just needs minor husbandry changes. I can do that.
Thank you. I just want to stop you here in the interest of time. And does anybody have any questions of Mr. Rainbow?
Doctor, I am a veterinarian. Thank you.
Senator Boswell?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So what's going to happen if we do nothing? The people that are doing this already, what's going to happen if we do nothing?
So I've referred, essentially they'll keep operating without insurance would be my guess. I've referred a number of lay dentists, and I use that term dentistry. Truly a dentist, veterinary dentist, has to be board certified. I myself am not board certified, so I cannot call myself a dentist. Doctors Jack Easley and Brad Tanner can. They are our only two dentists. Now, veterinarians all receive plenty of training in veterinary dentistry. So If you do nothing, it would probably go back to the same. They wouldn't have insurance. They'd be kind of operating on the fringes, and it would probably just continue as it has. I don't know that that's right, but unfortunately, I see cases that have been poorly done on a regular basis. We've got horses that are in pain because their teeth have been overfloated. We've got teeth that have been, part of fractures have been pulled out and left and not referred for months or ever until the owner finally says, well, it's got a draining tract, and then somebody finally refers it up and they call a veterinarian out. So people think that they're getting really high quality dental care because some guy from Facebook came around with a float and a bucket of, some speculums and stuff like that and could work. So we have to figure out how to make sure, if you're going to put the stamp of Kentucky that these people are good and certified, you've got to do more than this current bill suggests.
Thank you. We have time for one quick last question, and then we need to vote on this because we're out of time.
Can I make one other comment as well?
Senator Yates.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to bring it in from a city perspective on this one. In my personal injury practice, one way I look at and creating the standard of care is we look in and say, if someone comes and they breach that standard of care and they do something wrong, then there'll be a civil suit to hold them accountable. And my worry is a lot of times if people are operating on the fringes, they don't have anything, then we have someone who has a very valuable horse or whatever that is, and there's no recourse. In fact, I had someone call me on a very similar case, and I would have taken them to the mat, except for there was no recourse with this individual. So if I'm looking to protect my constituents, I'm looking to protect people in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, I want to set up at least a mechanism in which hopefully there'll be insurance available. And then in the event that you do breach the standard of care, if someone is poorly trained, if they don't find those things, then they would likely be held accountable that way and would lose the ability to be insured and otherwise practice. If you don't do anything, then my worry is then it's kind of like our marijuana and our other things that we just pretend it's not there and turn a blind eye, and it doesn't get any better.
Accountability is
About
important.
About 20 seconds, and then we've got to wrap this up.
Veterinary medicine gave up, and I'm going to throw everybody into the bus here a little bit. They threw out the equine dental portion because somebody wanted a veterinary school at Murray State, and they were trading tit for tat, is my understanding. We'll give away equine dentistry in order to we'll drop this Murray State getting a veterinary school. Veterinarians in central Kentucky do not want a distributive model veterinary school. It is a failure.
Thank you.
We see it at other schools as well.
We have to go ahead and call for a vote.
If I could just say one thing, Mr. Chairman.
One thing quick. and
That's
then
the
we have to
first
go.
I've heard about that. But anyway, this practice has been going on for thousands of years. It is crucial to allow these. I've had people, 7th generation people on my farm floating my horse's teeth. If there's a problem, we call the veterinarian.
Thank you.
I-
I'm sorry. I have to go. Is there a motion on the bill?
Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Senator Yates. Is there a second? Second by Senator Wilson. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell,
I'm going to have to vote no because I have additional questions that have not been. So for today, I'll have to vote no.
Senator Carpenter, Senator Deneen,
Pass.
Senator Funky Fromeyer,
I'm going to have to vote no. There are a number of actions in here that I think are well stated by Dr. William Rainbow, and I think we need to dig in a little deeper.
Senator Nunn, Senator Reed,
I'm gonna have to vote no unless I get an answer on if Dr. Rainbow's group is good with amending the testing part of it. If the testing was an option, I think I would be more leaning towards yes.
Senator Richardson,
Can you stop for a second, please? In the interest of what I'm doing here, this is the first time that we've had a committee meeting limited to 30 minutes. I'm not comfortable with the fact that we haven't had the opportunity to ask questions. Anybody, I'm just limited by the schedule on this. Hang on just a second, please. So now that we have started the vote, we have to keep going on it. Is that,
In instance of the chair, I would rescind my motion to vote on the bill.
is there a second to that rescission? So there's a second on that. So we're rescinding the motion on the vote, which leaves this just for discussion only at this point. And I would like for us to go back and revisit this and maybe bring it back where we have time to answer all the questions. Again, I apologize to everyone. That's just the limits of how we are structured for this session with the time frame on it. So, Senator Webb, thank you so much. I'm sorry that we did not have enough time
That's
to get
fine.
in with
If
all
I
the
could
questions.
urge members, while we've got the people here to answer their questions, they'll
Yeah, that'd be
gladly
great.
stick
Some of us have to
around.
go to other
Yeah.
meetings, but
But
those that
anybody
don't,
who
that might be a
doesn't,
good time to have some one-on-one. One quick reminder before we adjourn, we have a 24-hour rule for substitute committee subs and amendments. Just want to make sure that everybody remembered that. That's something that we can't move around. Other than that,